broke my heart. Now I'm gonna break something of yours!
All right, welcome to an episode of Heartbreak Hotel. My name is Sid, and I'm the resident manager here. For those that haven't tuned in yet, Heartbreak Hotel is a place where guests come to stay in order to discuss their profound secrets, things that might be bothering them for some time, or if they simply need to talk about anything that will make their minds lighter. We strive to maintain an atmosphere of pure non-judgment for our guests. They're made to feel as comfortable as possible and truly thanks them for sharing their stories. By the way, every guest that stops by is fully anonymous. So, please allow me to welcome another guest that has been gracious enough to come stay at the hotel and share her story. I personally am very excited for this because I'm always on the side of turning tough losses of heartbreak into solid wins and breakthroughs that lead to much happier chapters in life. Today's guest is also a proponent of the F Society's Rules School of Thought, my personal favorite, and chooses to live her life the way she wants that makes her the happiest. Okay, I've done enough talking already. Let's get right into it. So, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, a long time.
Absolutely. So, what brings you in today? I just want to let you know that Heartbreak Hotel makes sure that its guests have a comfortable atmosphere where they're not judged for any decisions they've made and anything. So, please feel comfortable and whatever story you want to tell.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing that brought me here, and I think if you can turn anything that has made you upset, but you've learned from it,
right?
If you can share that story with other people, you can actually prevent someone else from feeling upset at the end of the day. And
that right there is why I started podcasting because there's people out there that what I'm blessed with this life, you're blessed with this life, and we have friends that we can turn to in our times of need, right? What if there's people out there that just cry themselves in their pillow and they just have to see themselves in the mirror and just move on with their lives and deal with whatever pain they have, and that's it. But if they can listen to something like this, right?
Yeah.
And like, wow, like there's a girl out there or there's a guy out there that like knows how I feel right now. You know what I mean? It's soothing, right? We're all human at the end of the day. But yeah, so like what brings you in today?
Yeah, so obviously there's tons of stories I think on my end that I'd love to share. Really it's about learning from heartbreak because I think people look at it as probably one of the worst things that can happen to you. But in fact, until you've experienced heartbreak, you'll never know who you truly are as a person.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And, the reality is that, experiences like that are the ones that really define your character. Whereas if you're not put in those situations, you'll never be truly tested and you'll just go about life, la-di-da, yeah, this is me. I know who I am. I am this. And you need you need someone to slap you in the face sometimes and go.
Right. I mean, when we're pushed against the wall, right, it brings out that realness inside of us, right?
Definitely.
And yeah, just like when you're facing that situation, it's fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
If you've heard of that. And in some situations, some people choose to flee and some people will face the problem head on and deal with the consequences, right?
Yeah.
So what specific heartbreak stands out in your head that has turned over that new leaf for you?
Yeah, I think it would definitely be, my last relationship, which definitely what was at a critical stage in my life, which is what made it even more memorable. And that's why it had a bigger impact in my life. I think a lot of mid-20 somethings can relate to that real first love when you're out of school, when you're actually an adult and not just, having a high school fling or anything like that. So, as much as those things are great, this is the real down and dirty because you're not, just seeing each other in school all the time. You're in the thick of it with work, figuring out who you are as a person.
Right.
You're out in the real world, so there's no such thing as, just write an exam and go party and live your life. This is every single day of your life. And this is really where you're defining your long-term goals because until school really ends and you're in the real world, you don't really know what that means. And you start questioning a lot of things that you thought were real. So this is kind of my story around dating really my best friend and at the time, the person I thought I was going to be spending the rest of my life with, which I'm sure a lot of people do. I think most people go into relationships thinking it's going to turn out well.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't, then it's already off to a bad start.
Yeah.
So this is really a story of my best friend. We were pretty much together all throughout university, had a great time. I think we experienced, everyone would call us, say that we're the same person, we're the opposite gender version of each other.
Very nice.
So I think we never saw the fact that we would actually make a great couple, or there was something special there. It really sprung up on us probably when we were graduating university, and we realized, oh wow, this could be something special. We started off the relationship. I think there were already some issues, with some previous relationships and kind of transitioning to this one. It was definitely messy.
From both sides?
No, from one side.
Oh, from one side. Okay.
From one side.
His side, your
his
side?
side.
Oh,
his
okay.
side. His side, yeah. I think you know me from. I don't date a lot of people.
Fair. No, that's fair. You pick and choose wisely.
Yeah, but that doesn't always mean that you make the right choice.
But that's life, right? That's how we live and learn, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't regret the decision at all. I think everything I did in that relationship, I still stand by to this day, and I'm really proud of myself and how I handled myself.
That's the most mature thought about it.
Yeah, and I definitely realized the mistakes I made. As much as it's easy to point fingers and say, oh, that person's crazy, so I left them, or that person's this and that.
Right.
If you fail to realize that you contributed to that in some way or another, then you're just as crazy as that person, because there's two sides to every story, and it's always going to be a matter of perspective.
Totally
at the end
respect
of the day.
that.
So yeah, we started dating.
Sorry, you guys were friends for a while, right?
Yeah, I would consider him my best friend. And
you guys were best friends for a while, and then
Yeah.
so you're about to get into this. Something happened where you're like, wow, maybe we can take this to another level.
yeah,
And what sparked that?
I think it was a matter of being in business school. The people we were around, I think we both realized that we weren't like them at all.
Okay.
Our aspirations, our goals, although we were both going towards very corporate jobs, we just felt a disconnect. And,
Interesting.
we started traveling at the same time. So I think that brought out that new side to both of us, where we both grew and were maturing at the same time. So when you go through critical experiences in life at the same time, then you're just bound to be drawn to someone because you feel like they understand your hurt. They understand
Absolutely.
what you're going through. So it's more so I found a companion who just gets me. And
That's beautiful.
And sometimes, your childhood friends won't get that because they haven't gone through those experiences with you at such a pivotal stage in your life.
Right.
Which is your
And when you're with
20s.
that significant other, your significant other sees this other half of you that is not even other half, this piece of you that is not revealed to either your parents or your family
Yeah.
or your friends or anything, right? Only they see that.
Yeah.
So they can see you at your most vulnerable. They can see you
Yeah.
at your strongest, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what builds that understanding, right?
Definitely. I think that at the end of the day is what makes love so beautiful, I think.
It's the most beautiful force on earth, man.
I strongly believe in that. And I think the one thing I that's definitely extremely positive that I took away from that relationship is, as someone who was raised in a very typical South Asian household where it was all about, don't worry about love, just focus on your grades, focus on your career, this. And that was always my mindset. I was like, oh, love, yeah, that'll happen. It was kind of like
Right.
my priority in life is to be a career person and this and that. And I think that flipped everything I knew to be true on its head, because I realized I don't give a sorry, I don't know if I can swear here,
No,
but
that's fine.
I
That's
don't
fine.
give a shit about what I'm doing in this world and how much money I make. At the end of the day, as human beings, we just want to be loved and we want to give love. And that's what makes life beautiful, because if you don't have that, and you see a bunch of people who are rich, but they're broken inside, love is probably one of the most fulfilling things in the world. And I will always credit my ex with revealing that to me. No matter how difficult that relationship was, he is definitely the person who brought that out in me.
I literally cannot. I'm speechless right now because I cannot agree with you anymore. Because that is exactly, you've put it perfectly in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Love is the most powerful force on earth, and at the end of the day, man, we shouldn't care about status. We shouldn't care about where we are in life. These problems like, oh, I hate my coworker, this, that, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, those are the problems that I don't want to have in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, as human beings, our innate desire, our eternal desire is to be loved, is
Yeah.
to be held, is to be nurtured or whatever. You know what I mean? That's the most beautiful thing. And in my life, if I have that, that is my wealth and my health
Yes.
and my, you know what I mean? And that's, I
100%.
made it. I've climbed my mountain, and that I would not want to share this summit, these beautiful views
Yeah.
with anybody else but my significant other beside me.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And $10 million in my bank account cannot change that feeling for me, right?
Yeah.
They cannot buy that feeling for me, right?
You can't. You can't even, I can't even describe it sometimes.
Right.
And, that I will always be grateful for that experience. I think at the end of the day, no matter where I go in life, I prioritize that more than anything.
That's amazing. So we will get to that. How did that spark? Like, what turned the best friendship into love?
It wasn't clean. It was definitely messy. I think it was more so we would realize moments where we're like super, I love you, and this is.
Did he make that move? Did you make that move?
I think he definitely made the first move.
Sweet.
And as a result, initially I ignored it. I said, oh, whatever. I don't want to get involved. This is messy. And then I realized at the end of the day, I'm like, shit, I do love this person. And this is the person I care about so much. We have the same dreams, same goals. Why am I fighting something that is...
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah. That I see a lot of potential in. I think as friends, you also know the worst of each other. So there were things initially that were always in the back of my mind as this could be an issue. This could be, a potential block. But at that moment, I just had to go with my gut and what I felt. And I don't regret that at all.
That's amazing. How long does this relationship last, by the way?
I would say 3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time to make your learning so pivotal, right?
Yeah.
That you credit him with.
Yeah.
And what did you like about that the most?
I think what I liked about it is there's something really special. Personally, I'm not a dater. I hate dating.
Really?
I hate it. I find it uncomfortable. And more so because it seems forced. I think when
dating feels forced?
It feels forced.
Why?
I know. Well, not dating as in, in my scenario, it was my best friend. So that transition was pretty easy versus going out and date and finding a boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Through however, these apps out there now or however, like when
Tinder,
you meet them.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. And it's because it's a forced situation that two people are put into. And maybe they are extremely compatible, but you're not really being yourself a lot of the times, and you have a wall up, or you're.
But it'll trickle into that eventually, right? Like right? I mean, yes, there is that aspect of your first meeting and first all that, and you don't want to give yourself away, right? But I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that are like, you know what, this is what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they
fair.
start off with that and the guy or girl sees, you know what? Wow, this person isn't afraid of being themselves right off the bat. Why shouldn't I be the same, right? But normally, I totally agree with you. Everybody's all like, suited up and like personality wise, they're blocked off and they're like, oh man, I gotta impress her or I gotta impress him first thing. And then there's levels to what unravels.
Yeah.
Right.
Or realistically, most guys just want to hook up, and you're like, oh, this is exhausting.
And
I mean, if you're into that, power to you. Do whatever you feel comfortable doing. But I think it's just in this kind of casual dating era that we exist in.
Right.
It's very much, hey, you're an option, you're disposable. So it's like, not you, the next one, swipe,
And as a girl, you specifically, like, I feel like girls have to be so much more cautious, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I again, like, I think everyone's entitled to the type of dating life they want. That's personally not me. It's not that I'm out there looking for the one, but I believe strongly in natural friendship, which I think can evolve into
you carry yourself at a certain level, and it's not wrong to expect that from a guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Totally. So sorry, we were going back to the question. So I personally don't like dating. I think for me, it was just a natural transition, and it made it really comfortable. Right. And I've always envisioned that the person that I would spend the rest of my life with would be my best friend. And I think most people do.
Absolutely.
Even you could have a best friend from when you're a child. That's the person your companion is your best friend.
Right.
So I was like, I just felt like it was meant to be. And I was like, this is how you'd want a love to start and your life to start. So in my mind, I was like, this is great. This is perfect. And I think what I enjoyed was that I knew the worst of my ex. And
you said you had to help him deal with his past history. Did he bring baggage into your emotional baggage into your relationship? that you had to help him with? That like, hey,
Yeah, quite a lot. I think coming out of that relationship, an in- I didn't really show a lot of respect to people who would claim to be suffering from mental health issues. And
okay,
yeah, and I think
that's a very powerful topic that you're
yeah,
getting into.
it gets really, I think from what I experienced specifically, you know, I've realized my need to address my own mental health and how much it can actually impact someone else. And until you've experienced that, you won't respect it to the degree that it deserves. And I, honestly, all the power to people who are going through mental health issues right now.
Right,
I can see how they can take very capable, amazing people and sometimes not bring out the best in them.
right,
And it's not the result. I'd like to think that it's not a result of that person being a terrible person, but they're just not able to manage their environment and react in a way that is suitable.
right.
So I think that's where it got really, I think it started off that being the critical issue, the underlying issue, but me not recognizing how severe it was and kind of reacting in a very, it's very easy to say things like, you're crazy, or
Yeah,
you think
I
nothing
respect
of
that.
it.
Yeah.
And those two words are, you're such a drama queen and you're bipolar or anything like that. Sometimes you don't understand the severity of those things that you say and how hurtful they can be, especially if that person is not in the best mental condition.
Right.
Yeah. So it did get really deep really quick, but I think that inherently
No, I
was
think it's very important because, as you said, growing up in a South Asian household, and there's communities out there that don't really value how significantly mental health awareness is important, and how mental health issues
extremely.
affect people on a daily basis. Their cognitive thinking, their just their everyday life, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not like they themselves don't want to be like that. They want to be normally functioning human beings and make
Yeah.
rational decisions on a day to day life. And sometimes this stuff can't be helped, right?
Yeah.
So going to what you just said, are these issues from both ends? Was it your end or his end where he was trying to deal with something that's, if you had mental health issues, do you
Yeah.
think he reacted in a not so respecting way?
No, I think it was definitely the opposite. I
Okay.
think my personality my entire life has been very much what you see is what you get. You know,
Okay.
and I think you know that from I'm very outspoken, bold, and I don't really hold back what I say.
Right.
I wouldn't like to think that I'm a nasty person, but I think if I feel hurt, then I will tell you right away that you've hurt me and
Right.
how unhappy I am about it.
So, so you react right then and there, right?
Yeah, and I think I learned over time that that's maybe not the best thing. And you know what? As much as I would say that, my ex was going through mental health issues and we tried to address a lot of them because they did get to a point where I was just scared for his life.
Really?
I definitely do feel that coming out of that scenario, I've been able to address, I think to a certain degree, we all have mental health issues that we need to address, whether it's anxiety is so common in our society, especially within our among millennials, depression.
Right.
You need to feel confident enough in understanding when you're experiencing it, because it might not be all the time. And talk to someone about it and know what are the triggers or what are the signs that are indicating that, hey, maybe I'm just feeling really anxious right now, so I'm not acting like myself, and maybe I'm not talking in a
Right.
way that's in line with who I really am.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that I think was the pivotal moment that I realized, wow, this is
I mean, are you comfortable sharing an example of like any of your disagreements, so to say, where he may have come to you and it's like, look, hey, I'm dealing with this and I don't know how to go about this, blah blah. And instead of you being okay, well, like let's talk about this, that, you just reacted and you're like, well, you're crazy, like you said before, right? Like you're crazy, this, that. Like is something like that ever happen?
yeah, definitely. I think there would be times where we would have disagreements, just in general, like
Yeah.
couples do. It's nothing big.
Right.
And he would then drink heavily and then just become a different person and just say nasty, mean things to me.
Oh,
and I think
man.
I would rebuttal in a way saying, nasty things back.
Right.
'cause-
Yeah. Like you're fighting fire with fire here.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was really ugly. And I think what that led to was, anytime we would get into a fight, it would become a who can be more nasty to each other.
Oh man.
There was, I think, the pivotal moment where we decided that he needed help was definitely started when I found out that he had cheated. And it's an interesting part. And I learned a lot from that experience because I did realize that it's very, in my mind, if you think of me or typical me, it's like, you're cheating, you're out. That's it. I don't want to deal with it. Right? It's very black and white. And then you're then dealing with someone who cheated on you, who broke your heart, but then comes back to you crying and just broken, telling you that this is not me, I need help, and being vulnerable in front of you. He's like, at the end of the day, I could have taken that experience and gone, you cheated on me, you're a monster, you're a terrible person.
Right.
But even if he chooses to cheat to this day, or whatever decisions he makes, there is an underlying insecurity with that. And that is a mental health issue.
Absolutely. Yeah. People are so quick to easily say that, oh, if you ever cheat, you're gone. Right. But when they're actually put in that situation and when love gets thrown into the mix and your feelings and how you truly and powerfully feel for this person, it's not wrong for people to say, you know what, maybe I can forgive this person. Did you want to forgive this person? How did you deal with your own conflicting views there?
I think at that moment when I saw him in that state, I said, at the end of the day, I care about you. Whether or not you hurt me, you are my best friend. I can't see you like this, so I need to help you. But the downside of that is I don't think I truly ever forgave him. And that resulted in me kind of feeling like, you hurt me, you have to make it up to me.
Right.
And that's not the way to go about it. I strongly tell anyone, because if you're gonna be with someone and then hold this expectation of them that you messed up, you are gonna be making it up to me for the rest of your life.
They're living their relationship out, of the rest of the relationship out, in such a disadvantage all the time in any situation, right?
Yes.
So every
100%.
situation, whether it's a small disagreement or whatever, they just know that, holy crap, I know I cheated on her. I know this is gonna be at the back of her head. So I know that I have to work just that extra hard.
Yeah.
No matter how small or big the disagreement is.
And as a result, it just got nasty. And I think I felt a certain power over him because I knew he'd done that to me. And maybe that was my insecurities and my ego coming in saying that you're here, like I'm above you in a way.
Okay, yeah.
And that's something that I regret, because if you're going to forgive someone, forgive them. That is not something you're entitled to hold against them for the rest of their life.
To harbor that, right? Yeah.
Because now every issue that came up after this was one up on that one core issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just became that issue plus the fact that you cheated is what I'm going to now, scream at you about.
Exactly, yeah. And no matter what direction any conversation goes, it'll come back to that, because that piece of your heart is harboring that hatred of the fact that how can this person that I love do this to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're just going to go back to that. It's just, oh, you're late to the movies, you didn't pick me up. Oh, by the way, you also cheated on me, and I hate you for this.
It was petty, and I think I should have made a decision. The one thing that I do think of is, if I was gonna forgive him at that time, I should have really forgive him, because as many mistakes as he made, I don't deny the fact that he worked on himself and he improved heavily. What would constantly bring us back is me, anytime I would be upset of him or get, see him really drunk and then know that what he's done to me, like the way he's verbally abused me, and I verbally abused back. I'm not saying I'm a saint either.
Right.
When he's drunk, I would then just lose it. And I think you're just always fighting a battle that you've already lost. And it's just, there's no winning in that scenario, because the respect is gone. And I think once the respect is gone, it's really, really tough to make anything out of it anymore, because as much as two individuals fight, you have to respect one another. That's super important.
I learned this a long time ago. So there's 3 C's. Have you ever heard of the 3CR rule?
No.
That's because I just made it up. The 3CR rule is any relationship, especially a significant other relationship, a loving relationship, it needs to abide by the 3CR rule. So there's 3 C's and an R, right? That's compassion, communication, and what's that? Compassion, communication, and what can I always forget the last C.
Trying to
Uh,
think.
compassion, communication, and
Consistency.
no, man, damn it. Whatever was it? But anyways, the R, I know I'll remember once I keep going with this. The R is the umbrella. And without this, the C's fall. And that R is the respect.
Yeah.
Right? When you're compassionate to someone, oh, you love this person. At the end of the day, no matter what the argument is, because I love this person and our mutual understanding is that our relationship needs to survive, whatever, I'm compassionate towards them. I'm going to see this through, right?
Yeah.
Communication, obviously how I feel, what that person has done to me, anything has to be communicated, right?
Yeah.
If you hide things from each other, how are you supposed to move forward, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, why can't I
You're
remember
not
this?
gonna
This is
get over
horrible. It's gonna kill me. I know the three. Oh my god, the last C was communication, compassion. Oh my god, and the respect is the thing. So, anyways, it proves your point that
Yeah.
once the umbrella's gone, it's gonna rain on the whole relationship, right? And the respect's gone, so you're verbally fighting fire with fire, and the next day it's not easy to bounce back after being verbally abused, right? It's not easy to just
It's not.
like people just run away. Look, I love you, but and I didn't mean what I said. I obviously love you, right? Like you know,
Yep.
I called you this, I called you that, but come on, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But man, what a bullet wound is a bullet wound, right?
It is.
The scar is a scar. Like it's just
And you always have your guard up because you're gonna always assume that this person is capable of this. So I'm never gonna let my guard down
I
because
remember
this
the
person
last C. I'm so sorry.
go
Compromise.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's a big one.
Exactly. That's the biggest one. And because you mentioned your ego, right? It
Yeah.
came into play, and you you were petty about harboring that hatred towards him. Which, by the way, forgiveness of cheating is a very powerful thing to deal with, man.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever wrong to not forgive or forgive. Right?
Yeah.
It's just powerful when you're conflicted with such a feeling, right? Like this is the worst thing one can think of, right?
Yeah.
Cheating on somebody, right? That you've
Yeah.
given your heart away to, right? And that's where that compromise comes. No matter how big the issue is or disagreement is, whatever, you have to let something go for the bigger picture, right? And the bigger picture is you
Yeah.
guys being together.
And I think a part of me thought that to forgive shows incredible strength. And
Absolutely.
I thought I had that strength in me, and maybe I didn't. And I think that's a realization that I have now too. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on this relationship clearly.
As you should do.
And I'm glad because it's only going to make my current relationship even better.
Oh, good.
I think
you're in a relationship now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
To know. Yeah, that's amazing to know. Yeah.
Learned a lot. So, yeah, I mean, if you can forgive someone, you have to do it with a pure heart, no strings attached.
When did you find that out, by the way? You said this was a 3-year relationship.
I probably found that out. I would say there were instances of it coming up, but really it came to the surface probably in our 11th month. So if we started dating January, probably around November.
So this was early on.
It's very early on.
Holy crap.
So we
So, like,
had a whole slew of stuff after that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, super early. So I think it just, we both, I would say he tried really hard, and I did as well. I think essentially there were circumstances around us that
Right.
didn't make us our best to deal with the issue at hand. You know, both of us were in jobs that we hated. We weren't really fans of staying in Canada. I think we both wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And then just, we didn't know what we wanted to, that typical quarter life crisis of like, what am I supposed to do in my life? I thought I wanted to do this and I hate it. And then you go from all that to now having to deal with such a severe issue because and it's weird because most people around me weren't going through those types of relationship issues. In fact, I think the ones that I went through matured me way more than anything else in my life. So, you know, you almost feel like there's a really good line, and I hate to quote it, but it's from Beyonce's Lemonade because I highly resonated.
Queen
with
Bee,
that.
man.
Queen Bee.
Queen Bee.
And she says one line. You know, there's poetry throughout the entire album, but one is, it's where she says, "My torturer became my remedy," and I so strongly resonated
man, that's
with
powerful.
that because when you're both going through a really tough relationship, the only people you can really confide in are each other because no one else will understand that relationship.
Right.
You know, it's very easy to tell a friend or tell a family member that, hey, I was cheated on. They're going to be angry. They're going to be like, leave this person, get out of it. but you really want someone to understand your deep feelings. And we were the only two people that understood that each other. So there was this dependability
Right.
that was almost unhealthy as well.
Right. And that fueled the rest because you found out so early and you chose to be like, you know what, let's just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jay-Z's cheated on Beyonce. So like,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
What hope do people really have? You know what I mean?
No, and in modern society, I think cheating is more and more common, which is, and I fear for it now too. I'm just like,
It's scary, man.
but I think it comes from a feeling of not being able to communicate openly with your partner. In fact, now I encourage open communication. Like, tell me about your past. Tell me about things that you've done that maybe I wouldn't be happy about. But as long as you tell me, I'll feel like you're always being honest with me.
Right.
And there's that onus on the person to always tell you everything, but there's also the onus on the person who's receiving that message. You have to be able to react to it well, because if your partner feels like everything I say, they're going to yell at me about, like, oh, why did you look at that girl? Why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Then they're not going to tell you stuff anymore. And they're going to feel this pressure of like, oh, I'm just, and then those lines won't be established of what's okay, what's not okay.
What's not okay, yeah.
Where is that? You know,
Right.
it's a very gray line, I guess. Yeah, so it was definitely rough. I think for it to happen so early in the relationship definitely caused a spiral effect of it just getting essentially worse and worse as we went down. And then
Because of that harboring, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of other things that have. Did he ever cheat again?
maybe, right? Like
You
you
don't.
know,
Oh,
no,
wow.
but I'd like to think he didn't, but
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Damn. And it wouldn't you won't feel any slighted anymore. Like you're just like, oh, like once a cheater, always a cheater. Like, you know, you.
I do think that's true.
Yeah.
I think whoever made that lineup is accurate. I think once a cheater, always a cheater, because that becomes almost your cop out. It's your easy way out. You know, like something goes wrong. It's very tough when you fight with someone to sit there, even when you're really angry with someone, to be like, I'm going to sit and make this work. And I'm going to stay committed to this person because I love that person.
Right.
It's very easy to cheat. And I think of that as almost, I hate to say the word, but a little bit cowardly instead of just facing the issue at hand. Cheating has become this like, oh, I'll always have options out there. And then what's the point of a relationship with you?
What is?
That's
yeah. Unless you have an open relationship, that's a different
Which is
story.
fine,
But if it's monogamous, if it's, you know, if you've committed to each other, man, why, right?
Yeah.
And it's a human, it's an innate desire to feel temptations.
For sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The girl would, the guy would, right? But if you're truly committed to each other and you've given your soul away to this person,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that, it shouldn't take you that much to actually go out there and cheat on this person, right?
Yeah.
So what brought it to an end finally?
I think it was a pattern of recurring events and
Of
just fighting, nasty
Okay.
fights, and, you know, more things happening, another mistake happening, just manipulating one another. It was definitely not a healthy relationship.
That's
I will
toxic.
It's highly toxic. And I think back to this point, I'm like, why did I stay? Why did I stay? You know, you question so much. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Hindsight's 20/20, right?
For sure. And I do think back to what made me so attracted to this person. And I realized that I watched a really good YouTube video after the fact when I was going through my reflection phase. I saw my soulmate in him, but I didn't see, and what I was trying to find was a life partner. And there's a really good video where she kind of walks through the fact that your soulmate isn't always your life partner. And I think we're taught in society to think that way, like, you're my soulmate, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and the difference really is in the fact that your soulmate is someone that you have such an intense attraction to that it's almost indescribable.
Okay.
You know, this person can make you feel like shit, but also make you feel like the best person in the world and make you feel so loved. So it's like this force that's bringing you two together, whether that force is the fact that you've been best friends forever, the fact that you've gone through so much together, whatever it may be, that essentially would be your soulmate, right? Like you have no, you know, even if the world tells you this is the worst person for you, you don't see any of that because you're just in this zone.
Relationship goggles, right? That's what you have on. Did you ever start off with a concept of that one soulmate is my life partner?
I do think people think that way in
Yeah.
general. Like, you'd like to think
I
that
mean,
there's someone out
it's
there for
changed
me.
now for you, right?
Yeah.
But what changed it for me, like, having been part of multiple relationships, I've been forced to start to think that, okay, look, I did start believing at one point where, oh, I'm going to find my soulmate one day, that perfect person for you, right? And now it's just, after having been part of multiple relationships, you realize it's just a trial and error game, right?
Yeah.
And there's multiple varying levels of compatibility with each person, right?
Yeah.
As I look back, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, I don't count high school relationships anymore.
Yeah.
But recently, I've started to think that way because it's just compatibility, right? And then eventually, I marry someone that rates the highest on the compatibility scale and the most fundamental when it comes down to the most fundamental issues, right? Whether it's life, money, career,
Yeah.
but that's aside. That's the
Yeah.
logistics of living life. I mean, us as a person, as people, right?
Yeah.
Can we get along? I mean, religion plays a certain factor for certain people, but I just mean love, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Can we see each other through the worst, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where the difference between that and between soulmates and life partners come into play, because what a life partner really essentially is someone who you can grow in love with. Someone where when you meet, it might not be all the bells and whistles, but you have a strong foundation. Maybe you have a similar view. You have an attraction to each other.
Right.
You interact in a positive way, and you're working towards similar goals. They don't have to be the same. In fact, if they're different, that might even be a little bit more interesting because you're going to learn something that you maybe
Something
didn't
new.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it might not be that crazy, passionate, spontaneous love, but it's one that's stable. And at the end of the day, that's what we need to be happy.
Stability.
And that doesn't mean, and I'm not saying this is compromising by any means, because I will not be in a relationship if I'm not attracted and inspired by this person.
Absolutely.
If they don't make me excited about life, then
Yeah.
there's no spark there for me.
Right.
But growing with your life partner is really about recognizing where you guys are great, where you guys have opportunity to get better, and work on that, right? Because you're then building gradually, as opposed to having like really high highs and really low lows, because I think that's going to mess with anyone's mental health. That's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
And if you want to have kids, you want to have a family, there's times in life where you're going to go through. I mean, I think the problems we have in our era are nothing. When you have kids, when you have a
Right.
life and like finances to deal with, there are a million worse things that can happen in life. And you need someone who's going to stand by you through those issues.
Absolutely.
And not just be volatile in
Right.
those scenarios. So,
But how do we truly know until we face them, right? Like that's just the gamble of
don't.
life. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
And this is where I think the one thing I push a lot in my current relationship is let's have as many experiences as we can. And that's because we're going to put each other in situations. I think traveling is a big one. I don't think you know anyone until you've traveled with them or lived with them, because everything you see when you go on a date is just it's a part of them.
100%.
But at the end of the day, you're going to be with someone, seeing their ugliness, seeing how messy they are, seeing whatever it is. It's not attractive.
You've invited each other into now your personal space,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
in a separate other place now. Like
Yeah.
you're traveling together and living. Right? We're one person when we go out to dinner or whatever, right? But when you come home,
Yeah.
that's a separate space. And when that person is invited into your personal space, that's you.
Yeah,
Right?
that's you.
That's
And
you.
that's unapologetic. And there's going to be stuff that's not attractive. And
Right.
That's-
But when
that's-
that person is able to wake up in the morning, see your face, and say, you know what? I love you for who you are.
Yeah.
That's the most powerful feeling.
And I
man.
think that's the most beautiful thing in the
the
world.
most beautiful feeling.
In fact, if someone says they're attracted to me because they see me because of my career, because of whatever, anything that's superficial, I'm like, I know that you're not the person.
Yeah, you
for me
didn't take the
because-
time to really I don't care if I have a glamorous job or not. Sure, thank you for complimenting what
Yeah.
I've done in life. However, if I will be, if you're attracted, if you put in the effort to get to know me on a personal level and are
Yeah.
willing to work out the quirks and all that stuff and
Yeah.
accept me at that level,
Yeah.
that is
That's-
something else, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, at the you learn so much from that, and now that I go out into the world, and I started dating probably really quickly after. I don't think I was fully mentally over the relationship.
Oh, I see.
But I started dating almost instantly, and you meet so many people while dating. In fact, for me, it was like I started dating when I moved to So when I did that, you meet so many people and you realize what makes that, what's that spark. And it's tough to describe sometimes, but you really have to go out there. I do regret not dating as much when I was younger.
Oh,
You
yeah?
really
Okay.
have to meet a lot of people to know, okay, I like this, oh maybe I don't like that.
Right.
Because you have a perception of the type of person who's going to be your soulmate or like your life partner, but you don't really know until you face it.
Dude, we live in a bubble.
Yeah.
Think about just being like, oh, I found my life partner down the street. What if you had gone to Australia? What if you gone to, wherever, Tokyo, wherever,
Yeah.
and you meet somebody on the fly, and this is a person in another part of the world.
Yeah.
The world is a massive place. People tend to forget that these instances, these life partners aren't just waiting down the street. They could be anywhere
Yeah.
in the world, right? And you traveling, by the way, we'll get into that. Do you mind sharing, like you told me this off the podcast, like the whole, when you traveled with your ex, that's when everything just hit the fan, and that's the end of what happened there.
Yeah, so it's funny because at that time I think I was just down on myself, and there's so many just things weighing on me. One, I was working at a job that I didn't feel happy at all. There was nothing specific. It was actually a job that I think people would love to have, and I was just inherently not myself and not happy
Okay.
in that environment. So there was that. And we went to Myanmar, actually. Anyone who, if you want to travel, please go to Myanmar. You will be transformed. It is a beautiful place. Not very developed, but
Right.
so much spirituality there. And I learned
There's a lot of crazy things happening there right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I know
that's
right now it's probably
that's
not the best.
off topic, and that is, my heart weeps for what's
Yeah.
happening there.
It's
But yeah,
brutal. But I think the culture and the people in that country are so beautiful, and the way they refer to Buddhism. And I personally, I'm not a religious person at all, but
Okay.
you find inspiration through different types of spirituality, and I think you can get that from any religion.
Totally.
So, there's so much I learned. And at that time, I was on this trip. I would probably cry every other day. I was just really unhappy about my work. I was ready to leave. I was in a very unhappy state. And I was reading this book at the time. It was called Happiness of Pursuit. Anyone who wants to go read a book and just get inspired, that's a beautiful book to read. In fact, there's a lot of scenarios of different people and how they broke out of the mold and actually fought for what they wanted. And
Very nice.
And I think it defines the concept of adventure in very different and unique ways. Adventure doesn't always mean you have to go travel the world. It can be anything you really want, anything that's bringing you out of your comfort zone. But anyways, I was reading this book, and the one line that kind of stuck with me at the time that I was really unhappy with life was, discontent is the first necessity of progress. And I think that hit me, where I was in a state where I was very unhappy, I wasn't myself. I was constantly complaining, very negative. Lord bless my family and friends for putting up with me at that time, because I was definitely not the best version of myself. And it hit me. And I think at that point I realized I can sit here and continue complaining about all the things in life that make me anxious and unhappy, or I can just do something about it. And what's the worst that's going to happen, because I'm already at the lowest that I could be at.
I'm so happy you said that. Yeah, that's very, very true, because yes, we have circumstances aside, life
Yeah.
circumstances aside, we do have that power to
Yeah.
meet that point and realize I can actually sit here and complain about this to my friends,
Constantly. Yeah.
or I can do something about it. And that right there, you chose to do something about it. And how'd
Yeah.
that turn out?
And I think in my scenario, that happened, and I kind of put my foot down and said, I'm going to quit my job as soon as I get back.
Wow.
I don't have a
okay.
job. And that was something I'd always intended to do, but it's very easy to go, but what about that? But what about this? Oh, but I need to get another job first. But this.
Rationality
Once you
comes into play, right?
But
Yeah.
once you actually do it, it's liberating, and you realize I can do so much more now that I don't have this constant drag in my life and being unhappy and by this job. So that job happened, and I think, during that trip we had another very nasty fight. I was with my ex,
Right.
and we were flying to Vietnam. That was the last country in our trip.
Okay.
And at that point we got in a really nasty fight at the airport, very public, something
Oh, no.
I'm very, very unhappy about. And I looked at him and I said, this is it. I know we've broken up a million times before, but I am done, because I am at such a low that anything you do now, I'm so numb to it and I cannot face this anymore. So we went our separate ways in Vietnam. I I booked a very expensive flight back to Canada, so ended my trip early. And same thing happened as usual. He would message saying, I love you and like we can't end this. This is meant to be. We're soulmates, things like that. And I do believe a part of that is true, but I knew how unhappy I was and that I had to get out. So
But that light just went off at that airport. You're just like, this is
yeah.
that's it.
And I'd like to think, it's very, I think maybe, I don't know what his perspective, I've never talked to him since, but, part of him might think that, oh, she gave up, she quit, she left, she didn't believe in us.
Oh, you haven't talked, like, there was no closure after. There's just, you
no
said,
closure.
I'm done.
It was
I'm
rough,
walking out.
It was a rough breakup, yeah.
Did the cheating get brought up?
I mean, at that point, that was so long
that
ago.
was-
There's
oh,
so
okay,
many
okay,
other
I
things that
see.
happened on
Oh, okay,
top of
okay.
that. It was just the burden of everything. And I left, obviously, he messaged and a part of me just I wanted to see him one last time, but I didn't at the same time because I knew I cared about him so much that I would probably go back. I just
Wow.
knew it had to be cold turkey. So I left him, came back to my work, quit that week. And I sat there and went, okay, so you had all these problems and they're gone now. So what you do with your life now is in your control. And you can't make excuses saying that, oh, but I have this. Oh, but I have an ex I need to take care of. Oh, I have that. This is it. This is your clean slate. Spent quite a bit of time traveling. I traveled with my sister, which is amazing. Obviously, I came back. I had a limited amount of time I could be jobless. I mean, as much as you'd love to just travel the world.
Money catches up, yeah.
For sure. You have to be a little practical in that sense. So I was at a point in my life where I said, okay, well, I could either keep traveling or I could go to a country where I could maybe just get a job where I could just cover my expenses. And a part of me was like, okay, I've worked so hard to become a professional in marketing that I might as well just go get a random intern job in another country at a startup. So literally Googled, found a job in of all places, ended up just packing up, going there for 3 months. And I fell in love with the country. I didn't fall in love at that point, but I didn't know anyone there. I kind of just moved there. It was tough. It was, not having friends somewhere or family and not knowing how things work. It was a transition, but probably the best decision I've ever made in my life.
That's amazing. And that's where the F Society's rules thing was born, right? That's where you were like, you know what? I'm my happiest when I choose to live my life on my own terms.
Yeah, and I think the challenge with that was I was so burdened by the expectations of society because my entire life, I set my life up in a way where I said, I have to get the best grades, I have to get the best job, I have to do this. Like it was very, in South Asian environment, it's very...
Oh, absolutely. I can relate 200%. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
It's just like, pressure. This is what you do.
Yeah,
and,
this is what you do, yeah.
Sacrifice now, this is what you do, and you'll be happy.
Become a millionaire, whatever, that's it. That's status and all that. That's what matters, right?
And it's funny because I did all those things and I checked all those boxes and I said, so society's way of doing things didn't make me happy. So maybe I just need to change my perspective as to what happiness really means. And so I went and it sounds very cliche, but I went to go find that for myself. There were times where I went from making a really good salary to making pretty much nothing.
Right.
In Asia of all places so I just sat there. I didn't have the best apartment. I didn't live in the best area. I was super budgeted because I didn't have a lot of money to spend. And I think when you're put in scenarios like that, if you can find happiness, you'll realize what really matters to you in life. Yeah. Made amazing friends, people who I genuinely felt like they didn't have to, help me, It's funny because when I first landed there, I landed in my Airbnb and the guys who were sharing the Airbnb, like, I'm friends with them to this day because they happened to make food for me. They're like, who's this girl? I'm like, what is she doing? She's so crazy. Yeah, and you learn a lot about yourself in those scenarios because you're like, okay, when I have nothing, and I truly ask this to myself sometimes, I'm like, when I don't have my job, I don't have my societal status, I don't have anything in life, who am I? And I'm still on a journey to figure that out, But I think these are the questions we should ask ourselves because if I ask someone right now, who are you? I'm a lawyer. I'm this. I'm this. Okay, no, but who are you as a person? What are your
Exactly.
values?
Exactly. What's beyond that Armani suit? What's inside of that? Like,
Yeah.
who are you as a person, right? And what you said right there, even though you checked off all the boxes, the academics, the successful job, the glamorous, that glamorous position that, people are seeking in life, right? You still felt that discontent and you
Yeah.
still realized the outside looking in, everything's great. You come inside and reality hits you like a brick wall
Yeah.
and you're sitting there and you're like, wow, like it wasn't all cooked up to be what it seems. And I'm
Yeah.
still unhappy, right? So now what? And then you made that
Yeah, because
decision.
now there's no playbook telling me what to do next,
Absolutely
right? I
not.
have to make up the rules on my own.
I'm sitting here making a podcast with you because I'm 3 months unemployed. I quit my job, and it is. You said it perfectly. It's the most liberating feeling, man. You think differently. You wake up in the morning and you don't have a leash around your neck. You know how
Yeah.
powerful that is. You know how powerful it is to not owe a 9 to 5
Yep.
to somebody else. Then come home and then work on your dream or whatever few hours you have. You go to the gym and do whatever you need to do, right? To just unwind, and then 9 a.m. you're back again there.
Yeah, but I think living this life, I have realized the need to also respect all ways of life as well. I initially was like, everyone's crazy for wanting that 9 to 5.
No, totally.
Yeah, and the more you think about it, it's everyone is entitled to their way of life.
100%.
If you want to live that 9 to 5, if you want to get married early, have kids,
Yeah.
do this, follow that typical life, have a mortgage, good on you. But then you can't belittle someone who doesn't want those things.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
But that's the thing, some of those people do. And by the way, I have nothing against those people that do choose to live a 9 to 5, do want that stability in their
Yeah.
life. And because if they go home and they're happy, they're happy parents, they're happy, whatever, all the relationships are flourishing and they're still living their life happily, who's to blame them, man?
No.
That's the way it is for them.
We're all meant, there's no,
But that's not what it was for us, clearly.
no.
Right?
And I think it's that understanding that, hey, we're all different. But at the end of the day, if we all have good intentions, we go out into the world, as positive individuals,
Right.
not hurting people intentionally, then we're no different. At the end of the day, we're human. And,
Exactly.
And that's the most important thing. Always open yourself up. And I say this to myself constantly. I said, open yourself up to all ways of life that you may not even relate to. Because that's what essentially traveling teaches you. It's you can meet someone, have so much in common with them, and realize
Right.
they had such a different upbringing and different life from you. And that's so beautiful because that's humanity at the end of the day.
Right.
And you might learn something, even us catching up, you might pick up something new that makes you go, oh, this is interesting. I like that thinking. How do I incorporate that into my
Dude,
life?
this entire episode right now has surprised me to a point that we have so much in common.
Yeah, and we haven't caught up since.
And I value you. I mean, I always valued you as a person. Knowing this now about you, that you see life in, a very, very similar way that I do, makes you love you that much more. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, like, I'm glad you think this way. This is amazing. And at the end of the day, you said it best, and I personally believe it to be as true as possible. I'm just striving to be the best version of myself, the best human being that I can be for myself, my family, and most importantly, the world, right? I don't want to inflict harm upon anybody. I don't want to, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself that I can, right?
Yeah.
And if we all just did that, man,
It's not that I don't know.
it's
I like
not
to
that.
think.
No, because innately, I feel like we're born to be good. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not. I share that view with you as well. I'm not a very religious person myself. But I do believe that we're innately born to be good, and I'll give you a very primitive example, right? Like as a baby, when the baby starts recognizing its caretakers, aka mom, dad, right? The baby doesn't feel the need to disrespect or what I mean. Like to grow up disrespecting or wanting to kill or wanting to be mean or in a certain way. They're just like, oh wow, mom feeds, takes care of me, cleans, bathes, whatever, as they're growing up, right? And you have disagreements with your parents, but innately you realize, right? Holy crap, I care so much about these people. They've taken care of me or whatever. Like we're just born to be good, right?
Yeah.
And And yeah, like if we're born to be good, and it's the world. It's the world that ruins this innocence, right?
Yeah.
With all the garbage that is surrounding us, right? Just in the
And it's a
very
lot
same
of the,
way, yeah.
it's all the pressure as well, the garbage and the pressure that the world puts on us. Because it sometimes, like I said, it kind of goes full circle back into all don't have the level of mental health to deal with those things. So we might then project ugly sides of us.
But there's a system in place, right?
Yeah.
There's a system in place in the sense that look at the news around us, right? Look at think about if the news just flushed 10 years worth of good news every day. Like the best news was guy saves kitten from tree. Do you think our parents would be like, come home before 11, you might get raped? They would never say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're flushed so much negativity down our throats on a daily basis that we grow up in this fear, right? We
Yeah.
grow up, we're just surrounded by fear, and we're surrounded by, oh man, that person might do something bad to me. I got to go home. Or this, you're just living out of fear of the
Yeah.
other person, and that good that we're born with now is turned into like, oh, that person is going to screw me over. So before that person screws me over, I'm screwing them over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And at the end of the day, we can all just, I don't know, it's a very interesting topic. I think that's one where you always need to be aware of the potential harms in life,
Right.
but that shouldn't be your primary narrative, and it shouldn't be the primary thought in your mind. It should be something that you're cognizant of at the end of the day, but not fully projecting like, this is bad, this is terrible, I have this problem, that problem, and that problem. When you hear that, and then it's like, what's the point of living life if that's going to be how you think?
If I'm living out of fear of
every
whatever,
single
right?
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're living life on your own terms, right? How do you feel? Have you found that satisfaction? What's changed? How are you as a person now?
As a person, I'm definitely much more patient with others. I have a great appreciation for just trying to understand the way different people think when I communicate, instead of just jumping to conclusions, getting angry. That was probably the old me. The challenge with living the life that I've kind of started on is no one tells you what's next. So no one is defining, or no one is giving you a structure to live on. It's a great thing because I'm making up my own rules, but as any human, I do seek some sort of mentorship, right? You seek, who's gone through this, who can kind of guide me.
Lays out some sort of guideline for you, right?
Yeah. And you get to this point in life where maybe I need to be my own mentor. And that's scary, because the scary part is you might make a million mistakes. And I just try to make every decision with a pure heart, with a clean mind, and hope for the best. Because, wherever life is taking me next, it might be great, it might be awful. You just don't know. You have to go out and live your life. And the quote that I think of the most is, you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So anytime.
That's deep. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's Steve
Wow.
Jobs. I love him. It's true. And it's so true, because you're always fearful of planning. Oh, I need to get here. I need to get there. And you might be in a really shitty situation right now, trying to get out of it, but realize how you got to that shitty situation, or how you got to the best situation in your life.
Right.
There might have been tons of roadblocks. Now, I think about it, and it's crazy, because when I left my ex, or when I was in a very unhappy relationship or in a job that I hated, at the time I was like, why me? I go out, I don't hurt anyone. I've worked so hard, and this is what I get in life. And the reality is that if that didn't happen in my life, I wouldn't have quit my job. I wouldn't have had that terrible trip where I left my ex. I wouldn't have moved to. I wouldn't have met so many amazing people. I wouldn't have met my current boyfriend, who makes me extremely happy and just is such an understanding person. And I wouldn't have the next chapter in my life unfold. So it's kind of crazy where life progresses you, because now I can connect those dots looking
hence
backward.
connecting the dots looking backwards, right?
Yeah.
Not forward. And that's why it's so powerful. And I'm getting even more amazed at this conversation that we're having, because these are exact feelings that I'm feeling right now. Because I told you, like, I'm unemployed as well.
Yeah.
And I loved the structure that I had in my life, because so I'm an accountant, and accounting is very step by step structure, pass these exams, get this work experience, and that's it. You're an accountant, right? So everything's laid out for you. So when you know when you're starting off at year one, it's a 3-year process, and you already know what year 3 looks like and your obstacle course and everything you need to jump, whatever hurdle you need to jump through. It makes it a little easier to deal with, right? It's like, okay, I know what's coming, right? I know it's tough, but I know what's coming, right? But now with this path that I'm on now, and you described it perfectly, like the unknown, right? The unknown is, I'm so scared of the unknown because I don't know what my year 3 looks like now. I don't know where this is going to go, this whole podcasting. I don't know where anything is going to go. But you know what? In life, I don't think we ever figure it out, in the sense that our parents, right, when we came on earth, I don't think they knew how to be great parents.
Yeah.
They figured it out on their own, right? And that's just life, right?
Yeah, and exactly. No one that realistically, we're not gonna have that structure set out for us.
No set guidelines, no nothing.
No.
But we need to find the beauty in that.
Yeah.
Right.
And find the beauty in the mistakes that you might make along the way. Because I think, in fact, if anything's taught me anything in life, it's been my mistakes more than my achievements.
Yeah.
And my mistakes have taught me so much about myself and what kind of person I want to be in the world, what kind of ambition and what things I value. So every time, and I really try to do this in order to live a positive life, because or else you're just going to get bogged down by fear, by like, oh my God, I can't mess up, I can't do this because everyone's eyes are looking at me. Don't live for anyone else, because with social media, and I love social media. I love posting. You've mentioned yourself. You're like, oh, I see you traveling all the time. Your life must be great. Nah, we all post the best part of our lives. No one's gonna be like, I had a panic attack today and I've been crying in my apartment.
Right.
Here, let me put that on Instagram.
The behind the scenes might not get as many likes as the glamorous stuff, right?
So, I take social media as that's my scrapbook of life. So I do post really things that I'm happy about. I post things that maybe aren't the best pictures. I don't even care at this point, because I'm doing it all so that I can look back at Instagram or look back at any sort of social media and go, wow, I did that.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
what makes you
feel
happy.
Good.
Yeah.
And then the second part of all of it is you have to just get rid of some of the pressure that you put on yourself, and keep that, if anything, if there's anyone listening to this, keep that in mind, that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So when you're in a slump, when you're feeling really down, recognize that slump is meant to exist in your life for something greater to come. So that will always keep you positive, instead of going, I'm in a slump, life sucks, I quit my job, I started a podcast and it's not going the way I wanted. Take that as an opportunity.
Yeah, all this happens for a reason.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And I'm 200% free, and I'm happy, man.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, because I was working 14 to 16 hours a day sometimes, filling somebody else's pockets.
Yeah.
Right? Taking home a little bit for myself. Sure, some of my materialistic dreams were fulfilled, but like you said, I checked off the boxes. I went to a good university. I did this, did that, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still discontent. I'm still unhappy. Then what's the point, man? You know what I mean? And now I'm at this point. Now I'm at this place where I'm starting to see. And when you're free from that leash, you view your relationships, you view everything around you from a different lens, right?
Yeah.
I see my parents differently, who I love, by the way, because they've been so supportive about this, right? I'm in a South Asian household as well, where my parents could have easily just been like, dude, you're leaving a glamorous job for this crap. Like, what are you doing, right? But they saw the unhappiness of their son, and they're like, you know what? At the end, as good parents, we care about our son's happiness, right? We just want to see them happy, and if this is what makes them happy, we're gonna support that. But yeah, that being said, it's been absolutely amazing. So you ever think about coming home? Like, do you ever want to?
At this point, I think I'm having lived abroad and having traveled as much, as I have, I do realize that North Americans have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to the philosophy of life. You go to countries, you see the way people live. They might not make as much, but their conversations are rich.
Yeah.
Their outlook on life is more than just the superficial items. And I'd like to meet. I'd like to have one conversation with someone in Toronto where we're not talking about real estate. One.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I
You
mean
see,
that's
you see what the North Americans value, and you see what the rest of the world. Because when I went to Tokyo, and I saw how the Japanese live,
it's beautiful.
it
I've
is
heard great
amazing. Their
things.
culture, their respect they have for each other, right?
Yeah.
Or outsiders for that matter, right? Because I didn't even meet one person there that wasn't willing to help me out either with directions or anything that I needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know in Japan there's a massive barrier, the language barrier,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even people that didn't understand me went out of their way to find somebody that spoke even broken English to come help me out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Come help me out with and be like, okay, he wants to buy this. What is he actually asking for? What does he need? Okay, this is this, and they'd go out of their way. And you know what? The thing that blew me away the most is how we have your everyday conversational banter. Hey, weather, this, that, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, right? So much respect can be shown in just a bow. In their culture, bowing is a very powerful thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
instead of like, oh hi, you just what I'm trying to say is like, when we meet each other and when we greet each other, that bow exudes respect and is just the way the conversation goes, the way they value each other's company,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, it's just amazing, man. And it really taught me, and you said it best again, North Americans, we live in such a bubble and we really have a lot of catching up to do with the rest of the world and see what we
Yeah.
truly value in our lives, right?
Yeah, and it's really, I think we do well in terms of the structure that North America's created. What a lot of
Lifestyle's
people
great.
call,
Yeah.
like it's say, the rat race kind of philosophy. If you're into that, go for it because you can make a lot of money here.
Yeah.
And it's funny
And pay
because,
half of it in taxes.
bro, I guess, yeah. But you go to other countries and you realize no one's ever happy with the country they're from. No one ever loves. Like I live in right now, and every Uber I get into, some guy's going, "Why the hell would you move to?"
Really?
It sucks, and it has tons of issues. That politically, it's not the
Right.
most stable. People would say it's not safe,
Right.
so on and so forth.
But like that's their bubble, right? That they're living
It's
in.
their bubble, and what I tried to do in life, it's never to say one place is better than the other. It's more so that I like to pick up the positive elements from anywhere I've been
Absolutely.
and kind of have that construct my way of life that I want to live, irrespective of which country I'm living in. I think the challenge with coming back to Canada at this time is that I still want to learn. I still want to have rich conversations. Canada is a beautiful country and it has so many benefits for a certain lifestyle.
Right.
I don't think I'm done exploring and running around and just weather. Sucks to say it, but it makes a big difference on your mood. It's funny because
Of course it does. Yeah.
I was just telling my boyfriend, I said, I don't know what's been wrong with me. I've been here for 2 weeks. It's great. My family and friends, I should be happy. I'm in such a slump. And I don't know. A part of me feels like it's just the gloomy, the
Oh yeah.
snow.
It's been raining a lot
the
right now,
lack
and
of
it's disgusting. I
the
hate
lack of green when you look out a window, it does impact your mood.
Yeah.
And there's studies that have been done on this. I want to be somewhere that's bright and sunny, and that's what makes me happy. It's not for everyone. It's totally fine. So yeah, I think for that reason, I'm probably gonna lay off Canada for a bit. Who knows down the road? I never say I'll never do something.
I'm sure your
because-
family misses you a lot. Is that not
like
a
crazy.
significant pressure that makes you want to come back?
Yeah, I have, I think more than anything, I have nephews and nieces, and
Right.
it pains me to see every time I come how big they are, and the fact that I'm missing critical moments in their life.
Right.
That does suck. But I always say to myself, would my family be happy if I'm here and unhappy and not my best self versus me being abroad and the interactions I have with them are positive, and even if we have our, fights and whatever it may
Right.
be, I can be a little bit more mindful of the bigger picture because when you're in it, you're experiencing it every day, you get really just bogged down by it.
Exactly.
It's not always the
exactly, and
greatest.
it burdens you, right? I mean, as much as
For
you want to
sure.
be there for your family and you love them unconditionally, you'll be there for them.
Yeah.
It is a lot to deal with, right? But yeah, like, what's the grand plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years or so? That's such an interview question, but you know how
It
how
is.
I
Oh.
mean that.
I have to pull out my textbook answers. In reality, I don't like to plan so many years in advance. And I've stopped doing that because, like I said before, it puts a lot of pressure on you to achieve those things. I think inherently have things that I really want in life that are a part of who I am. Is I want a family. I want a level of stability in my life. I think anyone, that's not a crazy idea, and that doesn't show. A lot of people think like, oh, you want a family? We'd assume that you just want to travel the world and be like your own girl. No,
Yeah.
I really want a big family. I come from a big family, and I love it.
You see the beauty in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely want to start thinking about how I set up that part of my life. Thinking about where do I want to live if I have kids. And
Have you started seeing your current boyfriend in that light, or is it too early? Or I'm not sure how long it's been.
We definitely talk about it a lot. I think we're both in the mindset, we haven't been dating for really long. We've known of each other for quite some time.
Okay.
We haven't been dating for too long, but it's nice. I think at this age, especially, I wouldn't want to get into it if he didn't have the same goals as me.
Yeah, absolutely.
We definitely have the same goals. We talk about it a lot. We're planning for the best. We're planning, to live together and do all this stuff. But I think we're both open to what the world presents and not putting pressures on ourselves.
And that's the fundamental viewpoint that brings both of you together, right? Because
yeah, we're both a little crazy. We love just doing fun stuff and going out and being adventurous, but I don't want to put pressure on him, and I think vice versa, it should be the same. We should be together to become the best versions of ourselves, and we've yet to discover that,
Okay, yeah.
So
and that'll come with time, right?
Yeah, and we keep pushing each other. We keep bringing that out in one another, and we care about each other like crazy. And we see the goal. We both want big families. We want those things. So everything is aligned. It's just a matter of us continuing to explore and learn about one another and grow in love, essentially. So yeah, that's kind of where I see myself. I'm a little tired from traveling too much. I don't want to be moving around too much. It's exhausting.
Right. And so is stability in your near future? Like, do you think you've finally found a place where you can settle down and live at least 5 years there?
I hope so. I think stability sometimes,
Because it's not like you said, right? Before?
Yeah, I do probably want to start thinking about kids pretty soon. Not pretty soon, when in life I feel like it's the right time.
Right.
I definitely, I don't want to say no to anything at this point.
Right.
We haven't experienced life enough to say, this is it. This is going to be it. And I think the beauty of life is that you should never say that and always be open to any changes, because you never know in life. If someone told me 5 years ago that I would be living in for 2 years by myself and find someone amazing who then I would want to move with later on, I tell them they're crazy, because I tell them, no, I
relate to that so much. You're right.
Life is insane. And even us catching up, I think about just catching up with you. It's been so long since, and so much has happened that even the few conversations we've had, we haven't even covered.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
anything.
so much has happened, right?
It's crazy.
But that wrapping this up, that's what I want to tell you. I want to tell you that I value this friendship so much more because we can now see each other, how much we've grown, right? Like I remember how driven you were academically, how driven you were to check off those boxes, as you mentioned before, right? And I was too. And you'd be like, 5 years ago, you told me I'd quit my job, my glamorous job for this.
Yeah.
Of course I tell you you're crazy, but that's what I valued. I just valued getting that right job opportunity, working for that right company, outside looking in, right? Very glamorous.
Yeah.
But I was on the inside as well, and I saw how ugly it got. And just like yourself, I developed what I truly valued in my life. I've recognized that, and now I'm chasing that, right?
Yeah.
And my mental health, my awareness of life, my awareness of my relationships around me, because I was damaging my own relationships around me as well.
Too.
I wasn't the greatest son to my parents. I wasn't the
100%.
greatest friend to my friends. You know what I mean? Like, because I was so miserable about myself, what value do I bring in anybody else's life?
Yeah, you're just constantly just being down on yourself.
Right. Until you have that moment at the Vietnam airport, right? And you said, I'm done and I cannot complain about my life anymore. And I'm in control of it. And I'm going to do whatever I can to move forward and bring that happiness and live on my own terms, right? And see where that takes me. And immediately, as soon as I did that, everything just went on the upside because I mean,
Yeah.
Heartbreak Hotel is about our guests and not about the resident manager here. So I have a story where I have a very, very similar story to you as well, where I came from a very toxic relationship that built my patience now. So when I meet new people, when I whether it's I mean, I don't have a girlfriend now, but I know that I have matured so much in because she had mental health issues as well,
It's
right?
crazy.
And
Who would have thought our life stories
yeah,
would be
it's
so
crazy. She
similar?
had she had mental health issues as well. And I started off being, oh man, that's crazy, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But when I educated myself on those issues, I
Yeah.
started realizing this is something that's completely out of our control. I
Yeah.
have to give her the benefit of the doubt and I have to um, give her that space to really recognize herself and know that she's wanting to change,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't, and that's why that relationship, didn't really blossom the way it should have. But that's a story for another day when I get
Yeah.
to sit in your seat and
Yeah.
I get to check
Hopefully.
into my own hotel. You know what
That
I
would
mean?
be awesome.
But honestly, I cannot thank you enough for sharing such a wonderful story, your heartbreaks, and most importantly, how you transformed your mentality from
Yeah.
society's, living by society's rules and then jumping the fence and moving away,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure it must be hard for your family to not have you around,
Yeah.
but you're doing what makes you the happiest, and that's as your friend, I that's what I value the most. Like you, at the end of the day, I do want to see you happy, and you're doing that. So thank you once again. I hope your stay at Heartbreak Hotel has been comfortable, has been good,
It's been
and
great.
you're welcome. You're welcome anytime. Thank you so much, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.